Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, beautiful people, brothers and sisters. Dominika here, and today I come to you with another beautiful message from God. For those who don't know me, my name is Dominika or D.O.M, and I am a healer, a spiritual teacher, and a channeler, and I work a lot with the Ascended Masters, especially very closely with Yeshua, known to many of us as Jesus, and I also call him Jay. So if during the live you will hear me saying Jay, I refer to Yeshua. Now, recently I spoke a lot within my private groups and within different social media platforms about the profound effects, but also a profound need of all of us really start stepping into the full surrender. I spoke about what the surrender is and what kind of shifts and changes you can experience when you are choosing God's will to become your own. And today I would like to speak and refer again to a very similar topic and explain why is that completely necessary and only one step for us on the individual and a collective level to start finally making secure steps towards a reality that in Yeshua's times was called God's kingdom. Today many people are calling it the new earth. What it really is a shift in a consciousness, because the reality that we are ultimately experiencing as our external world exists within our consciousness, exists within our mind. Now, when we are looking at the world that we are living in, the world that we on the individual and the collective level are projecting out. There is no one external to us creating this world for us, including the wars, including the governments that not always have best interest of us, the ordinary people, in mind. It is still us that is projecting those dynamics, those events, those energies, those tragedies out of our distorted minds, out of our individual and collective mind, collective consciousness. So what we are going through now collectively is this process of awakening, is this process of shifting our consciousness into higher vibration, into higher awareness, an awareness that is more aligned with the truth of God, is more aligned with divine laws, and is less enslaved by illusions that are fear, lack, and separation. And today I would like to pass on the message that I received yesterday as I was walking my dog in a park, and I was discussing my personal process of full surrender with Jay, and he said to me, I can do absolutely anything. I can heal anything. I can remove any distortions. I can bring and change any lack into abundance, but I can only act on your behalf accordingly to your choices. And what did he mean by that? He meant that ultimately the reality that we will be experiencing, and whether it's going to be reality that we want to control and we want to solely create based on the beliefs that we have within our physical mind, or a reality that is filled with God, that is filled with healing, that is filled with miracles, it is our choice. It is our choice. Jay is also teaching us that the external reality present within the current now, and there is only now, is a result, as I said, it's a result of a collective ill, distorted mind. And this distortion comes from the fact that over so many years, so many generations, we've been programmed to believe that the separation is real, that the lack, whether it's in health, in finances, any other resources, is real, that the resources are more available to some people and less available to other people, that God is separate from us, that God favors some of us and punishes the others, that we should be scared of his judgment. There's unlimited, literally, or maybe illimited, but there is just very big number of lies that our physical mind, that is the center of the creation, that is the tool that is projecting the external reality, has been fed with. And Jay is teaching us that the only truth is that there is only infinite love, that the only real thing is God, that the only real thing is continuous, constant growth and abundance. Everything else that is not aligned with it simply is not real. But what we've been programmed to do, what we've been programmed to continuously recreate, is that we are creating from those distortions, and then on top of that we are fighting with our own creations, meaning when something goes wrong, when we are experiencing this lack that is a result of an ill mind, an error in the mind, we are trying to control this external reality in our own way. We are either fighting with it or we are running away from it. So this is a process where an infinite soul that for God, who truly is starting to drown deeper and deeper in those illusions and feeling more and more exhausted and tired. And all of it is because we believe in something that is not there. Yeshua says that the new earth, the God's kingdom, has already been here. It always has been here. In fact, we never left home. We fall into this very distorted sleep that we call 3D reality, and we forgot completely who we are. And throughout those generations, as our ancestors were fighting with themselves, with another selves, with the reality, we start to become more and more distant from the truth, more and more distant from God, more and more distant from ourselves and our hearts, our spirit. On top of that, in schools, in churches, they've been teaching us and affirming that that's exactly what it is, that we should live in fear, that we should live in this separation. But right now, what we are doing, we are undoing all those distortions. And the only way to fully exit this distorted matrix, this screen, when I was actually meditating, I've been shown this almost like a sphere, a circular ball-like sphere extended all around the planet Earth, that is becoming the screen that is showing us a reality that is a result of our distorted minds. But behind it, behind this illusionary screen, there is this kingdom of God. There is nothing but peace. There is nothing but abundance. There is nothing but sovereignty and love. And that already is, because time does not exist. There is just one now. And in truth, if there is just one now, we should be able to access it right now. this internal, individual, personal freedom, and eventually collective freedom. But that can only happen when we fully surrender the distortions within our mind, when we fully surrender the fears, the lack, the distortions, and when we will consciously start to make choices that are aligned with the truth. And what does it mean? If you have been, if you are familiar with the Course in Miracles or another book, The Disappearance of the Universe, or any other teachings, in fact, that even the Bible is giving us, in a very simple words, if I was to, as a person who uses English as a second language, if I was to explain this to you, it basically means that the mind, as a physical mind, is a tool that can be programmed like any computer, and it is being used as a tool that is creating the reality. But a mind that became so separated and so falsely programmed to believe in things that are not of God, that are not of freedom, that are not of abundance, that are not of flow, then this mind, of course, it is not the mind's fault, starts to create the reality that is being a reflection of the differences between one and another, that is being a reflection of the wars that are happening actually within us, the conflicts, the arguments, the crimes and the rejection between one and another. So in order to release that, we need to first acknowledge that the reality we are seeing here is not real. It is because it doesn't come from God. Because the only true thing, the only real thing, the relationship that we all should cultivate is the relationship with the truth and with the God. So the less God in our life, the less this commitment to a daily prayer, the less of the commitment to building that structure, building that thread between us and the truth, the more of this distortion will be happening in our life. The first step is to acknowledge, as I said, the truth, that only God is real. So if only God is real, it will be only natural that I want to reestablish this relationship, that I want to rebuild my faith and trust. And I do not speak here in a religious way. I speak here about a frequency that is truly accessible to all of us. I speak about frequency that which, if you allow yourself to access, if you open yourself up to it, can bring so many miracles into your life, because you are truly one with it, because your spirit that you felt disconnected from for potentially many, many years is of pure divinity, is of pure innocence, is of pure infinity, infinite potential. And that has never changed, because our spirit never changes. It's only the ego that is taking over, is building this idea of the false identity, the false self that is separate, limited, and victimized. This is not the truth. When we will finally start utilizing our free will, not by choosing whether I want a red or a blue car, but choosing whether I want to live and walk my life on the path of truth or on the path of illusion. If we will not start choosing the truth, then our life will not be filled with truth. Then our life will not be filled with true love, with true meaning, with true potential, with true abundance. It will be filled with lies and illusions. Because this whole reality right now is an illusion, and the truth exists behind this veil. So as I was walking with Jay and we've been conversing my own spiritual full surrender, and he was explaining to me how fundamental it is for me to surrender it all. He said to me, it's either all or nothing. Why is that? I think we all, or most of us, experience some form of surrender in our lives. For example, when we had certain problems that we couldn't either on a mental, emotional, or even physical level deal with, and we said something, God, please take care of it, and I am giving that to you, and potentially the issue, the problem, the matter has been solved in the most unexpected, miraculous way for you. But as we are elevating and growing, and our consciousness is expanding, we are being asked to surrender more and more until our will becomes God's will, because only then we can fully step into our sovereignty. The only reason we may struggle in surrendering certain control in our life will still come and will still be a source from some form of deep fear, and that fear may be fear of death, fear of poverty, fear of losing it all, fear of losing somebody in our life, some form of attachment, and still some form of illusion. For me, the biggest fear that I was struggling with surrendering for a long time, and eventually I became a victim to it, was the fear of surrendering the control over money. And I think that fear over money, releasing the control over money, a lot of people can relate to that. Why? Because money, even though innocent, and even though money is an energy as everything else, I usually say money is just like potato. Money has been used as a symbol of, as a tool to actually create a lot of manipulation over people by those who want to be in power. And money also is being used to create differences between people. You are poor, you are wealthy. I'm not gonna hang out with you, I'm only gonna hang out with wealthy people. You are a business owner, you're doing great financially, I'm gonna be sticking with you. You are working 9 till 5 in a warehouse, you are worse than me, for example. Yes, these are just examples. And money is also, we've been programmed to believe that money is the thing that gives us safety, that gives us security, that can give us certain comfort of life. And Jesus is teaching that nothing that you are seeing within the external reality, first of all, is real. It's just a projection. And because it's not real, because it's a hologram, it cannot give you safety. Nothing that is external can give you safety. Everything, in fact, that you are receiving in life, including money, comes from God. And the safety can only come from within. The safety, the security can only come from within this relationship between you and God. And I remember specifically one day, I think the first time when I was channeling God was probably around 7 or 8 years ago, as I was again in nature. And God says to me, I want you to be on my payroll. And I said, forget about it. To be on God's payroll, what does it even mean? I was used to having my business already, and I was used to doing things my own way, and I was programmed to run business certain way, meaning creating some, let's say, predictions, financial projections, and things like that. And I wasn't great at it, by the way. And God says to me, you know what, I see how much of your energy this is taken away from you. I would prefer this energy to be utilized on your creativity, on you feeling free, on you expanding yourself in your spiritual growth. But I couldn't. I said, God, I just can't. I just can't trust that you are going to provide for me the money that I need. If I would make a list, at that time I had beliefs. I don't believe that God will provide for me, because I didn't understand that everything I had was already coming from God. I was afraid that if God will provide, I'm not so sure whether he will provide enough. And the third belief that I was holding on to, I wasn't sure whether God will provide on time. And I decided to hold on to that. And as the years were passing by and my consciousness was growing, I start to really experience the heaviness of this attachment. I start to feel really victimized and imprisoned by the fear of being completely free, because I knew that if I want to be completely free, I need to be on God's payroll, and I need to fully trust, and I need to fully surrender. So that I think as eventually on one occasion, Yeshua literally stepped energetically. What does it mean? When Yeshua steps into your space where he is making himself known to you, depending on which senses you are, which senses are most sensitive for you, he knows how he can make himself known to you. He knows in what is the best possible way he can make you aware that he is now in your presence, in your space. He will do that. And in my case, it was the sensitivity on picking up on the frequency and the energy within my space, within my room. And when Jesus steps into your room, into your space, his presence is undeniable. He has a very specific energy frequency that speaks of power, yet stillness and peace and almost like gentleness. Gentleness is probably the best word. Strength and gentleness, the lion and the lamb. That's exactly how I would describe his energy. And in that moment when he stormed into my room like this lion, yet with this gentleness, he said to me, I am your safety and I am your foundation. It's either all or nothing. And I knew that at that place of my own personal growth, as I already felt very uncomfortable in the old version of self, the enslaved version of self, and I already had several, if not many, experiences of the true self vibration, which is what you are experiencing when your Kundalini energy is awakening. What you are experiencing is only love and compassion. So because I had access and I had the experience of this purity, innocence, and this oneness with God, I knew I don't want anything else. I also understood that if I was to hold this frequency on a daily basis, I could not project out a reality that is of distortion, that is of lack, that is of fear. And I was done with fear. I was on my knees because of the fear of survival. What's very interesting, as I was going through the years of my personal surrender, I got to know eventually why was it for me that it was so hard to be on God's payroll, why I created such a firm and strong attachment to money as my safety point. And that happened, that explanation came to me during my ayahuasca experience, where she showed me that as I went through two near-death experiences, where both happened through the loss of breath, and money as an external energy and a symbol of the life force energy within us, meaning breath, my subconscious mind, my black box, created a connection between money and breath. And whenever I was asked to surrender my control over money, I was receiving an information, my mind was receiving an information, surrender your breath, surrender your breath. And I was very grateful for being shown this connection between those two, because I've understood and I found compassion for myself why it was so hard for me to surrender, because I started to battle myself. I started to be very unpleasant to myself by, for example, saying, you want to lead other people, you want to be the leader, you want to teach others, yet you are not authentic. And for those of you who've been working with me, for those of you who are in the temple group, you know how extremely important for me is the authenticity. And it doesn't mean that I want to be perfect, but whatever I teach needs to come from my own experience. And I start to battle myself for not being able to step into full surrender, yet speaking about the full surrender, because of this one step that was holding me back from experiencing the frequency of my spirit, the aspect of me that was always there, was always free, was always pure and innocent. So that was creating a lot of pain and almost drama, because I really wanted this so badly. And I felt for a very long time hanging like in a limbo in between two different worlds. Nevertheless, I was eventually brought to my knees, and God started to create scenarios around me that were pushing me to surrender, because God wanted to show me that I am always safe with Him. Now, what was very interesting, what I was shown, and I would like to share with you, because it potentially will help you to release certain attachments in your personal surrender, is this. He said to me, Dom, very objectively, look back at your past, at your childhood. What kind of energy, what kind of emotions were most dominant when you were little, when you were growing up, when you were evolving, when you were growing? And when I very objectively, again, it's important to not allow yourself to step into those emotional, tornadoes. I very objectively said, you know what, I was raised in an environment where I constantly had to be on the lookout of the potential danger, whether verbal, emotional, physical even. So I've learned to be, even though I was already aware that what I see over there, what I see in front of me, is not outside of me, it's in my head. And even though I knew that I am creating it all the time, I was constantly holding on to that pattern, fight or flight, of being on the lookout of the potential danger. What is this then creating in our reality? It's creating escapism, it's creating conflicts, and it's creating this internal war, and we're literally fighting with the illusion. We are literally fighting with life instead of living and creating life the way our hearts desire. So when he said that the way to shift that is to start consciously choosing the truth. And what is the truth here? That the only real, true reality is the kingdom of God. That it is the reality where I am always having access to all the resources, where I am always safe, where I am always being led, when I am always being taken care of, where there's just this infinite love, where there's always this lovingness that is pushing me towards my expansion and growth. There is no danger. There is no danger. There is no one chasing after me with words, with belts, with anything else. And when he said that if you are struggling with this surrender, if you're struggling with this safety inside of you, start consciously choosing the truth. One, by realizing what the true reality is, but the second step is, and he's teaching that in A Course in Miracles, is to not react to the illusion. And what does he mean by that? Again, in a very simple words. If I see something in my reality that is causing me pain, that is causing me discomfort, let's say I lost a job, or I see that there is not enough money in my account to pay for something. Instead of reacting, oh my God, what am I going to do? Instead of immediately trying to step in and take control and come up with ideas that come from distorted mind on how can I change that, instead of starting to fight with what I see, he always says to me, stop. Before you react, stop. And honestly, he's been stepping into my presence. Again, he said, no emotional engagement. You can watch it. You can observe it. And now you, through your free will, you are choosing what to believe in. Do I now choose to take whatever is happening, whatever distortion is happening within my reality as the truth and believe in that? Because he said, the moment you engage with that, the moment you decide to believe in that, you are actually making that part of your reality. You are making that a part of your reality. And then I can't do anything. But if you will say, no, okay, this is something that is not of God. Because God is not the energy, is not the frequency, is not the one that wants to punish me. It is something that has been created through the error in my mind. It is something that has been created through a false belief that my mind is still holding on to. So what can you do in that moment? You acknowledge this is not a creation, this is a miscreation. You forgive yourself for it because it's not even your fault. You are growing, you are expanding, you are learning. But the important part is to acknowledge the truth that this is not real. The truth is that my mind miscreated that. The truth is that I am always safe. The truth is that I am always supported. So I am now given that belief. I forgive myself with full compassion for myself and the ancestors that gave me that, because they also had to go through those pains, through those traumas, through those events that potentially were so much worse than mine. And I am giving that to the Holy Spirit, and I am surrendering that thing, whether that was a loss of job, lack of money, relationship, whatever it is, to God. Because I am surrendering that to infinite source of love, infinite source of solutions, infinite source of the truth. And by that, you are rebuilding your relationship with the truth. By that, you are claiming back the power over the reality that is a pure expression of your mind. There's no one, as I said, external creating that reality for us. The governments are not external, and they are not over there, and we are here, and they are not over there to create the hell for us. We are actually projecting this kind of people that are nothing but symbols of the distortions within the collective mind. We can't solve those problems out on the outside. We can only solve them on the inside by walking and stepping on the path of truth and consciously utilizing our free will. And you know what? I know how it is when every single aspect of your life is filled with distortions, is filled with lack, is filled with pain, is filled with fear. And that's another very clever comparison that Jay gave me during our conversation. And I said, you know, so this full surrender in a situation where There is a person whose whole life is crumbling down, is filled with disaster to a point that we often can think about taking our own life. It's only through the full surrender, but full and complete. We are surrendering the mind to the Holy Spirit. We're surrendering all those situations that are present to God so it can be shifted. And he said, you know, sometimes when you have a car and one part is breaking, you take it to the garage and they can change the part or fix the part, and then you can use the car again. But sometimes you will take the car to the garage and you will receive the message that the car will not work again, and then you need to change the car completely. You need to surrender the whole car and you need to buy a new one. You need to go through this complete death and rebirth. And if we all collectively start choosing, you know, to surrender even our will, so God's will becomes our will. So we are surrendering to the flow of life that is always balanced and always wants to lead us towards growth, towards expansion, towards fulfillment, towards our highest potential. That's when we would collectively start to experience more and more of God's kingdom instead of this enslaved matrix that is showing us more and more of this slavery, more and more rigidness, more and more limitations. Soon the AI will completely take over the human structure. They want to microchip us, our children. But this is not happening on the outside of us. This rigidness and this limitation is an expression of how deeply we are disconnected, how deeply we allowed for this disconnection to grow within us, how far away from our own spirit we are, because we are constantly focusing our attention on everything but not God. Everything but not our heart, everything but not our spirit. Every single scroll, every single minute, every single hour, week, month, and year spent in the disconnection will take us further away from the God's kingdom. Because the only path towards God's kingdom is through the path of truth. And many today, at least, acknowledge that when Yeshua was present on this planet, he didn't come here to create a religion. He came here to teach us on how to free ourselves from the slavery. He came here to teach us that this reality is not of God. He died and he risen to even present us with the illusion of death. He showed us through the resurrection how illusionary the beliefs that our physical mind was programmed into are, and that there is much deeper truth. That God's love is truly infinite and capable of miracles that our physical mind can't comprehend. When he said, if you have a faith of a size of a mustard grain, you can still move that mountain. And it's true. If you haven't experienced God's work in your life yet, but you are constantly experiencing pain and you feel alone, if you still are struggling with probably the most deep wound within the collective, which is the wound of rejection, that, by the way, doesn't come from my childhood, your ancestor childhood, but the moment when the first illusion is being created, when we are seemingly separating from the source, this is the deep wound. This is the deep wound within our hearts. If your life is somehow not filled with love and freedom, I encourage you to start spending at least a little bit of time on contemplating on what would you like to start surrendering to God. Because God wants nothing else but your sovereignty, but your growth, but your creativity. Everything else is not of God. So I hope that this message supported you, whoever was watching in any way. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you would like to book a 50 minutes consultation with me, I'm gonna leave a link for it in the comments below as well. I am sending you all so much love. Bye bye.